Hi, I wanted to talk to you guys today about reflowing an Xbox 360. The same basic principles work for the PlayStation 3 and other motherboards. Right here, Rick is reflowing his Xbox, and what he's doing to start off with, and I only recommend this for the Xbox, is he is melting some rosin flux. And the reason he's melting it is he's using a thicker flux than you would normally use for
Get a
something
good
like
pool of
this.
that. It's going to take a little
Xbox
while longer to melt
360
because I
has silver
hook in
solder,
towards the bottom of the
and it
container.
really has to be heated up. So I like to use a thicker flux so it doesn't evaporate while he's heating up. Here we see Rick applying the flux to the two dies, to the two main dies on the Xbox 360 board. He will also be heating up the four integrated circuits surrounding these dies. What he's going to do is he's going to make sure that he gets an even
Sometimes.
coat
I
of
mean, you want to try
flux
and not do that,
under
but
these dies
you can
to
only
make
do what you
sure
can do,
that
right?
when he installs this back in his machine, he's not going to have any cold joints
And then you want to flip the board
under the
around and
processor. That's not something
oh,
he'll be
no,
able to
no, not
check.
on the
It's
back.
not
I'm
something he'll
sorry.
be able to see.
Flip it.
And so he
Do
will
the
have
other
to
side
make
back 45
sure
degrees.
that he
That way you can get it
gets
in
a
both
solid
sides. Make sure
application
that
in
there's
there so
enough.
when he's heating it up, it doesn't all evaporate out, and he's able to maintain uh, a good coverage of it. When you're doing this, I recommend holding your board at a 45-degree
Gets
angle one
easier. I
way
mean, usually you
and
wouldn't get that
tilting
much over the
the
top, but you're going to be all right.
canister enough so it just trickles under the dies.
Should I get a rag and clean some of that up?
Yeah.
Okay. Heat up.
Here Rick is actually heating it.
Oh, you don't need to do
What you want to
those.
do is you want to
Yeah.
move,
Yeah.
constantly move the heat gun
Until you really
from
start to see
from
the
side to side. We're heating
flux
things up
bubble.
at around 750 degrees Fahrenheit. You might actually want to put
Just
it
be
up as high
careful
as
not to bump into it
850
all.
degrees Fahrenheit to make sure that you get it good enough. You'll notice he has a side of a computer
I think I see it bubbling
sitting
already.
under
Just
the
give it a couple
motherboard. The
extra
reason why we're doing that
minutes,
is because we don't want to
4 or 5 minutes,
melt anything.
because if you don't,
You want something that's
um,
big
it's got
to
silver solder in it
sit
and
under
heat
the
stop the
motherboard.
motherboard.
You don't want a localized spot where you're holding metal under the processor dies because it'll draw the heat away from the motherboard and away from the processors and the ICs. And if it draws too much heat away, you're not
See
going to
the
get the
board
proper
bow a little
temperature
bit
to cause the
towards.
reflowing
It always
of the
bows towards the
processors.
heat for whatever reason.
You also don't want to focus on one spot for too long. You don't want the processors or ICs to get too hot. You don't want the board to get too hot. You'll see that the processors, or the board itself, I should say, are sort of bending up, warping up towards you, up towards the heat. If you focus on one spot for too long, you could damage the board or any number of other components on it.
It's just regular light bulb, halogen light bulbs. Boom, and it will heat that thing up. And sometimes the silicon strata would such
It takes several minutes to do this.
just like a Pringles chip.
Again, if you do not get it hot enough,
Hold it.
it will not work.
Of course, if it did that,
And if you do not get enough rosin, a thick enough
technically go in there.
type of rosin on there,
I don't remember what they did with
all of the rosin will evaporate. You will notice a smell when you're doing this.
come back
And if all the rosin evaporates,
and
it may work
start the process over.
and it'll probably fail shortly thereafter.
It's not glass, but it has a lot of properties like glass. You could take one of those wafers and hit it like that, and it would shatter in 100 different pieces.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to show you guys how long it takes to do this, and that's why I've chosen not to fast forward through all of this.
Curved down here and curved up there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Now, one thing that's really
Almost have
important
to
when you're
stretch
doing
to do
this
that.
is
Yeah, and then you also
be
get
very
a
careful not to bump
wood stretch. And
the
it had
motherboard.
circuitry on
If
it.
you bump
That's the
it,
thing about it.
you could
Those things are kinky,
cause
and there was circuitry on there.
for damage to the circuits. Remember, the circuits are microscopic. We cannot see them.
That's good, I would say. Just to get it as flat as
We
possible.
waited 15
So you might have
minutes,
to prop
and
it
we
to one
flipped the
side.
board over. Now we just need to make sure it's level. Just like you don't want to bump
Because
it,
if something's reflowing,
you
don't want it
want to
to.
make sure it's level as well. You want all the circuits to remain in place. He's using the heat sinks for
Try
this,
and get it
which
just a little bit
isn't a
flatter.
bad idea. It may work better for you though if you find like a ceramic tile to place all of this on. You need it to be as level as possible because
Yep,
you know
and the two
basically
big
what we're
ones in the
resetting
middle.
is the
You can see
it's
where
almost like resetting the
there's
transistors
in that
within the
square shape.
processors themselves.
This side
And
you
you'll
don't have to
see
heat as
here that
much,
Rick
but you
is
still need to
heating
heat it
the
for a couple
underside of
minutes
those
at least.
ICs and those processor dies. One of them's the GPU and one of them's the CPU, by the way. Now the underside doesn't need to be heated as much. It doesn't. You don't put any flux on this side,
It's
and
insane the cameras that are coming out on phones now.
you don't want to get it as hot. Heat it for a little less time.
The only thing this doesn't have is optical zoom. And,
Sorry,
you know,
this
it
isn't
probably
all
doesn't
very
take good
scientific.
in low light,
It takes
but,
it takes a little bit of feel to figure this out.
That light
Not all heat guns are the
doesn't have
same.
optical zoom.
I got a cheapie from Harbor Freight. It has two modes, a high mode and a low mode. I had to put it in high mode, or Rick did rather, to be able to get the 750 degrees Fahrenheit.
yeah. Crazy.
Now, not all guns are going to heat up the same. In fact, you saw at the beginning of the video, Rick was sort of
In fact,
messing
I
with
think
it to
this
see how
camera's
hot it
better
got.
than my digital
Uh,
camera that I have at home.
You're just going to
I
have
had it
to
for probably about 6
use your
years.
heat gun and
This one,
figure
digital
out
camera
the
for
properties of it.
My digital camera is
All heat guns are going to be a little bit different. Even the same brands are probably a little different, so it's going to take a little bit of experimentation. The good thing to know about this is you can redo it. Obviously, you don't want to redo it any more than you have to, because there's the possibility that you could be shortening the lifespan of your motherboard, but it can be redone.
Just give it
I've worked on
I'd say 30
PlayStations
seconds.
where I've had
That'd be good.
the
It's
fix
just the silver
last as
solder
much as
takes
6
a lot.
months. It's not always permanent, but
I used to do these.
it'll get
at,
somebody
I
by
think you
in the
have it on
meantime.
700. I used to do them closer to 600. Oop, careful. Closer to 600, and it just didn't work as well.
We're BSing about cameras in the background and, cell phone cameras being pretty
Yeah, you're
good.
probably
Maybe they
good.
don't have optical zoom, but they're pretty good these days. Have a good day.